Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our show. I am Larry King, and our special guest tonight is Jesus of Nazareth, sometimes known as Jesus the Christ.
Good evening, and thank you, Larry, for inviting me to spend this time with you.
Well, tell me, Jesus, there's some speculation out there that you have largely disappeared, not really a part of people's lives anymore. Is that true?
No.
Oh, okay, just no, huh? Well then, what have you been up to?
Getting involved in people's lives.
But, you haven't been real visible.
Missing it again, Larry.
Well, how have you been getting involved in people's lives?
For one thing, I am the bread of life.
I have heard that term, and I must say, I really don't know what it means.
It means that I am the food for life.
Well, that might fix the hunger problem.
You're trying to be cute, and it's not working.
Sorry.
Hunger is a serious problem, one I can't believe the children of this world have not figured out how to deal with yet, but your greed and lust for power get in the way. But I speak of a different kind of hunger.
What would that be?
The hunger in the soul.
And you being the bread of life fixes that?
Yes.
Oh, yes. You'd have a way with those short answers that kind of catch me off guard.
Perhaps that is because you were looking for mindless dribble to fill the void in your life, your TV time, and in the lives of your viewers. I offer more. I offer life. I am the bread of life.
So, we are just supposed to take a bite out of you? Or what?
You're doing it again, aren't you?
Sorry, I guess I am just not getting it.
Did you have breakfast?
Yes.
Lunch?
Yes.
Supper?
Well, yes, I did.
Why?
Well, I am a busy man and have a lot to do, and if I do not have a good breakfast as well as those other meals, well, I am not much good.
I know. And if you have those meals?
Well, then I can do pretty well for myself.
But you are missing some of the best nutrition. Let me say it again. I am the bread of life.
I'm not sure I am getting it.
I know. Unless you eat of my body and drink of my blood, well, you're still not getting it.
Okay, now you're just kind of creeping me out.
Well, keep in mind that those words were written back in the 1st century when people still understood the concept of sacrifice. Instead of offering up a goat or sheep or whatever, and placing the blood on the altar for God, I offer myself.
I'm still just a bit creeped out.
Have you had communion, Larry?
Can't say I have.
Too bad.
Well, some of my friends have been to some churches where they won't serve them communion.
Well, yes, that does happen. I believe Paul wrote about them back in his first letter to Corinthians. When churches refuse to serve communion to anyone for any reason, they are eating and drinking damnation because they haven't really figured out what the whole bread and body thing. They are too literal, like you were doing earlier with those cheap comments.
Well then, perhaps you can explain what it was you were talking about back then.
Perhaps. I'm not sure it will make much difference. However, people are too invested into hanging on to their little power structures to embrace the power of coming together as the body of the family of God in this world.
Well, you might be onto something there.
When I say I am the bread of life, I am talking about the presence of God within each and every person. To embrace that presence, not only within yourself, but also within others, feeds us, nourishes us, gives us the strength to get through the day. When we gather into our own little tribes and only think we recognize the presence of God in the few frozen chosen, we miss the point and in the process, starve ourselves a bit.
But I was raised in a Jewish community.
As was I. We are members of the tribe. When I talk about being the bread of life, it is a little like that. We are recognizing the presence of God in one another.
Jews too.
Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims, and it even extends to Lutherans.
You know that by saying that, you were going to torque some people off.
How do you think I got these nail scars? When you talk about loving one another as more than just a good feeling, or my tribe, you talk people off, but it needs to be said.
So you were saying all those groups are part of the family of God?
Yes, and the bread of life is accepting that in oneself, and in one another, and then living accordingly. In churches that serve communion, they take the bread of liberation from the Passover meal and share it among all who are gathered as a way to embrace that passing over, or that gift of life that comes with being a child of God. In eating it, they are recognizing the presence of God within. In eating it together, they are recognizing the presence of God in the gathered community. And as they leave, they are called to recognize the presence of God in all they meet in their life's journeys. We are just extending the tribe, Larry. Just extending the tribe.
Okay then, well, before we get lynched, I better break for a commercial.